Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. We are back with another experiment for you guys, and that is testing out hover engines for a space elevator. So let's get started. Alright, so I've been meaning to do this for quite some time just to see if it works out, and if it does work out, then I would probably create part 2 or season 2 of building a space elevator. So lastly, we created a space elevator that was a little too big and didn't work out too well with the wheels, rotor wheels situation. So I thought about what if we made it out of hover engines instead to see if that works out. So that's what we're going to test out today. And there's multiple parts to it that we need to test out. One, does hover engines actually hover over blocks is one thing. I think they do, but I can't say for certain if they do or not. I don't recall. It's been a while since I played with hover engines. So we can list our help with a small grid ship such as this one and throw in some hover engines on it, and hopefully that kind of works out. So it does hover on the grid itself, and you can pop it up ever so slightly. Ooh, but not too much. Okay, that's gonna flip out. All right, so hover engines work decently. I mean, hover engines, minimum altitude and everything like that. So what if we surround a block with hover engines? Would that work out okay? Okay, so that's a good test. I mean, we don't need to do it this way, but I think version 2 of a space elevator, I kind of want to do it this way. More horizontal, straight through, past the environment or the gravity field. And that would look pretty decent. It'll be more of a tram trolley system or monolith or gondola like thing. I think that would be pretty cool to do it that way instead of going straight up, which would still be decent. But in this case, we're probably not going to go straight up with a big old 3x3 pillar. Maybe we do a singular pillar with different materials or whatever the case is. I mean, we could just do one block here. We could try to go heavy armor if we want to be safe. But if we go light armor, that can do too. But let's see kind of like how this all works out, because it's all based on distance of the hover engines, I believe. So all right, something like that, and we put our hover engines here, 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 and here. So would that kind of balance out? I have no idea. Let's see. We'll put a battery on each point where the hover is, and we'll put a cockpit or a helm in this case. And of course, we need up and downward thrust, which is the biggest problem with this build. But what's great about this, we can add these big O thrusters if we want to. We could do just 2 for now, just to kind of see how this all kind of works out. We definitely don't need a gyroscope, although we could put one on. Obviously we're gonna need ion thrust or hydrogen for the space portion, and it's likely going to be hydrogen if anything. But I think this is a good way of testing it to see how this is going to work. So this is going to be released in 3, 2, 1. And it should probably still be a station. So we need to convert to a ship. Oh no, it's already a ship. All right, cool. All right, so it looks like, okay, it's holding up pretty well. Like if I moved it forward and backwards, it tends to kind of go back towards the middle. I am liking this. This is not that bad. Although we are tilting a little bit now. Unfortunately. So That needs to be fixed somehow, I think. I don't know how we're gonna fix that. So if we tilt out of it, we pop right back in. Okay, so that's not terrible. The only thing that's terrible about this is that we need to flip it back right way around. So if we did all these tilting, it becomes an issue. So we need to find a way to mitigate that as much as possible. So how would we do that? I don't know. Other than putting wheels or a landing gear to have a guide? Or do we make these a little tighter in terms of like minimum altitude? What happens if we did minimum altitude all the way? Like 0 meters? No, that's not gonna work. I think it's the opposite I'm thinking of. Let's see here. We're thinking, let's pop it all the way to the max, 30 meters as the minimum. So what happens if we did that? Okay, so it still kind of balanced out, locks in a little bit better too. That's not too bad. We do slip out a little bit. I mean, we're almost towards the middle, but if we fly up, oop, that becomes a little risky. And I see the cross over there. Kind of. Oh, that did not work out. Alright, so that definitely kind of worked out okay. We definitely need some kind of guide along the way so that it does not do what it just did before in terms of it getting off of the single pillar. So that is an interesting aspect that we need to solve if we are going to do something like this. I mean, as much as it pains me to do it, I think, yeah, adding a wheel, or if we added, I guess, the landing gears, that could kind of help too. The only thing is that I know landing gears, if you add it on there, and with speed, it's always going to be somewhat of a problem in terms of it like colliding or getting damaged. Maybe with a smaller version of a space elevator, that whole landing gear situation should be okay. So let's kind of see how that's gonna work out. So that should keep it in place. So we can't really go left and right too much. All right, so it looks like we need more than just one pillar up there for the landing gear. So we could add more down here if that works. Okay, so everything's unlocked, and all right, we're pretty much being guided by that, and we're not as twitchy and stuff. But in this case, we could have just did the landing gears and thrusters. So there's that. That's actually not too bad for a space elevator. That's more or less based on the thrusters more than the hover engines in that case. So is there a way to hug a hover engine around this thing without it being out of place? Could we potentially do this? Add a block right here to kind of touch the corner. Would that kind of help the guide there? Or do we do blast doors or whatever the case is? So we have this here. I'm gonna be smarter this time and copy it instead of keep rebuilding it all. All right, so this is gonna be released, and now this thing is free roaming. So we still could move it left and right a little bit, it looks like, but I think with the guides that might help out a little bit. We do collide it into it a bit, and we're kind of spinning now, so that's interesting how we have that motion going. We might be tilting a little bit as well, so I guess you kind of still need some kind of guide or guidance to keep it in place. Maybe add more hover engines on top and bottom potentially to kind of balance it out. Potentially. Not quite sure. We'll just see how that goes. will this kind of help it balance it out so that it doesn't necessarily twist and turn and all that stuff where we need a gyroscope? Trying to keep it all in place if we can. All right, so that's disconnected, I believe. Yep. So we moved it left or right ever so slightly. Let's just say like that. Kind of resets back in the middle. Oop. And then we're still a little twisted. So that's that's not great. But it's still kind of connected to the pillar. And if we don't touch it left and right, I think we should be more than fine. Yeah, it looks like we're pretty good. And if we do, for whatever reasons, get twisted or tilted, it looks like it's going to fall back in place. But it is spinning ever so slightly. So that does get a little bit worrisome. So I guess we kind of do need that. Oh, it's going a little nutty now. I guess we can add a bit of a gyroscope. But if we did add a gyroscope and we tilt it that way. Okay, that kind of works. So we still could spin it ever so slightly. Okay, this is a little too fast. But if we were to pitch like so, it resets based on the top one. And also the bottom one, I think. In terms of the hover engines. So what if we did the hover engines with a minimum altitude of 30 meters. And we did very, very... Is that soft? If we did it this way? Yes, that's soft. So if we did hover engines, I think that might be what we needed. Is to bring this to be really hard. I think that's what it's called. And now it's not springing back as I would like. So maybe that wasn't the best. Actually, no. With the minimum, it's a little too high, actually. If we did a smaller minimum, that should be better, right? Okay, I don't know what I did, but everything seems to be slightly messed up. So let's just reset. Okay, so that helped it. Is it the high? The low number equals hard and high equals soft. And it looks like in the middle is what kind of helped that. So that's pretty interesting. So it is definitely a higher number is what we want, I guess. Why was it when I did that earlier? It didn't really do too much. All right, let's go for a low number. Oh, this one swings a lot faster, which might be a good and or bad thing. All right, so if we tilt this way, what's gonna happen? I think that's it. That's the setting we want to go for. So in this case, before we go a little crazy, let me put another hover engine, but this time, I guess we use something else. So I'm gonna put one here, just for fun, and have those hover engines. I use different ones just so I can play around with it. So the minimum altitude would be 30 meters. Okay, so that's gonna bring us up very awkwardly because the positioning of our grid here. So basically one was leaning more than the other because of that. But that was only because of it wanting to be 30 meters above. So we're about 41 really. But that's just to ensure when we do cut out dampeners and put it back on that we won't just crash land. I mean, we could bring it down a lot lower, I think. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. All right, so that seems to work out okay. Like, we probably do need a gyroscope just in case. But this kind of works out. Putting a guide would probably be a better idea as well. So, having those blocks right there could be a bad thing and a good thing. It helps guide it a little bit. But then if we crash it, then that becomes an issue. But it looks like we get pretty good speed here. With this type of build, and I think it may actually work out decently. Do you want to put a different guide? I don't know. Or do we not use one at all? I think we just leave these settings and that would have probably worked out just as fine. Okay. Now, kind of part two of this is doing this in space. So we do need to go out past the gravity field. Like so. And I do this thing up with us. Although we don't need this. We put the platform out here in space. Oh. Um. That's because we were moving. All right, let's put this platform down like so. Let's turn this into a station. And we're going to get rid of these right over here. And... oh, did it stop? No, it should have stopped. Interesting. Um, we're going to use ion thrusting in space for now. So we'll just put 2 if we can. Like so. And then unleash this block off. And turn this into a ship if we can. We could. Perfect. So the test here really is to see if we were able to use hover engines in space. And the answer seems to be yes, which is awesome. Really, really nice. Okay, so we do need to fix that part right there because it's just colliding a bit. We want this to be hard. Okay, so that's actually working out okay. Although we do need to bounce it out again because right now we're just rubbing our face into the ground and we're being attacked by drones right now. So that's pretty interesting. But this is working out okay. The guides don't really help. I think the guides would definitely be additional hover engines towards the pillar from top and down of the ship itself or the elevator itself. But it looks like the hover engines do work in space, so that's actually pretty cool. Did not actually think it would work, to be honest. But what's also interesting in that it is pushing a block away, I think. Yeah, so it does push it a little bit, unless because this thing is moving and flying. Oh, now it's going to go in an endless circle. But good to know. All right, so let's just try that again with the same setup as before when we were in a gravity field. So we have hover engines going in each direction and additional up and down ones just to give us that kind of leverage and balance that it needs. We could also technically put a guide using our thrusters, ion thrusters and everything like that. So we could technically put it on the corners if we need to. So let's say for an example, we'll put this thruster here in the corner, this corner, and this corner. So now there's a bit of a guide right there as well. Not really. And then because we're in space, we're gonna have to do the up thrust as well. Or down thrust, I should say, downward thrust. There we go. So if you were, so we got to integrate the ion thrust or hydrogen to do something like this. Right there. And we do need to turn this ship or a station into a station. There we go. And then we'll separate the space elevator from the grid wherever that is. Right there. Okay. We'll put a gyroscope just in case. Like right there. And we get right in there. And also gyroscope, I think we could do override and leave this at 0 to kind of keep it balanced, potentially. That's a possibility. Hover engines, we want to do minimum, let's just say 1 meter, and then make this as hard as possible, which is 3 meters. Maybe change this as well. or just leave it. I don't think we need to do too much with that. And that's pretty much it. So if we turn this into a ship, there we go. Oop, bit of clang. So we move forward and back. Looks like we can't really do much in terms of that. And I think I just got it stuck. So good deal. So too many thrusters where they shouldn't belong, unfortunately. So let's get rid of them. So we're just gonna add one here, one here. And hopefully this works out. Okay. So now we move left and right, forward and backwards. It looks like it balanced out in the middle, so that's good. And then if we had to pitch it, it looks like we can't pitch it. I don't know why. Actually, no, because we're in override. So this kind of works out. I think that's the way to do it. All right, so we go upwards. I think we're lining up with the pillar pretty well. So that's not bad. So we still could do a 3x3 pillar we really wanted to, but a singular pillar would do okay. The biggest problem with a singular pillar is that it could be a bit scary in terms of when one block breaks in the pillar, the whole thing's gonna fall. So that's kind of why I did a 3x3 pillar previously, only to be more secure, which we still could do that because then we could just add 3 on each side and we should be fine. But this space elevator is seemingly okay and is keeping its placement even in space, which is I kind of thought it wasn't going to work in space, but I'm glad to know that it does work. And then we could bring this thing down, straight down as quickly as possible. I think we could pick up quite the speed here when it comes to making this space elevator go 100 meters per second. All right, so this is a good deal. It looks like it's working out pretty well. And just going up that quickly and down this quickly seems to be okay. Let's test it without these kind of blocks right here to kind of guide it just in case it gets out of place. I think with all the settings I just played around with and having the gyroscope at override, it may have just done the job for us. Yeah, it looks like it. So we get forward. It's not going to do anything. I haven't pitched it yet, but we don't have anything to really pitch it anyways. So we're looking good. All right, so we can bring this guy up as quickly as possible. We're probably going to hit less than 100 meters per second by the time we reach the top, but let's just stop it right there. We're going to come off the pillar, I think. Yep. Oh. Ever so slightly. Okay, we can bring that right back down. Alright, so I think those lines are the... Yeah, that is the hover engines line right there. That's missing a block. But this is perfect, actually. With the settings that we just played around with. So this works as a space engine... So this does work as a space elevator. So that's a good experiment. Good to know. I guess then we can make our second version of a space elevator quite soon. Alright, so fun little tip too. I just figured out by mistake. If you have something like this in terms of a grid between a pillar and you needed to copy and paste it and put it back in its place, if you're in the cockpit or helm, whatever you have there, you can easily do a control space to get it kind of reattached. So right now, control space, which brings the character to where you're spectating. So right now, this is where I am, right there. And if we needed to kind of be fit it into the pillar again, get inside the pillar, control space, and you're right back in the pillar. So actually didn't realize that could work, but just by mistake that worked out, and might as well share with you guys as well. All right, so with the tests being pretty positive, I think we can make a safer space elevator. And I think, like I said, we're going to probably do a gondola monolith-like thing, or monorail like thing. Instead of going straight up, we're going to go straight forward to get a nice view of the planet and out to space. And in addition to that, I actually do want to try, likely not going to work out, but try to aim for the moon. So having a monorail system that can connect right into the moon. It's got to be really, really precise on exactly how that's going to be built. So we may have to build somewhere around here in this grassy plain. Build it up just a tad and go straight. And hopefully it works out where we get to the moon. Specifically like this. If I was looking straight, I can't tell for sure. But hopefully it does work out and we can go right into the moon and connect our monorail system, gondola system, space elevator system directly from the planet to the moon itself. So that's pretty much the goal there, and it's going to require a lot of blocks. I don't know if I'm going to use 3x3 blocks once again. It is safer to do it that way, but it's going to take forever as well. But we're going to come up with a new welding system, new drilling system, and all that. And of course, it's all time-lapse for your visual pleasures, I guess you can say. But I think I might do same thing, 2 to 3 hour sessions, time-lapse, cut it to maybe 10-15 minutes each, and have some minor talking points at the end if necessary. So kind of explaining what we've done so far towards the end. And I think that should work out pretty well. But of course, let me know down in the comments below if you want to see me do something specific in terms of space elevator towards the moon. Alright, so I hope you guys did enjoy this video, this experiment. Everything seems to work out. So next step is space elevator number 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. And of course, drop a comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.